So today, we need to talk about a verdict that didn't just capture headlines, it brought an entire nation to a standstill. This is a story that starts with an absolutely horrific crime inside a hospital, but it explodes into a massive countrywide demand for justice and for safer spaces for literally everyone.
And look, to really get the pressure the court was under, you just have to hear these words from the victim's mother. For her, and for millions of people watching this unfold, this was never about just one conviction. It was a test of the entire legal system. Could it actually deliver justice? So after months of protests in the streets and an investigation that was under a microscope, the day of judgment finally arrived. In January 2025, a court in Kolkata was finally ready to deliver its decision. And the verdict? It was crystal clear. Sanjay Roy, a hospital volunteer worker, someone who was supposed to be there to help people, was found guilty of the rape and murder of a young trainee doctor.
Okay, so let's just quickly break down the key facts here. The person convicted was Sanjay Roy, a hospital volunteer. The victim was a 31-year-old trainee doctor. And the place where this all went down? A busy, state-run hospital in Kolkata, the one place she should have been completely safe.
So the guilty verdict was in, but the sentencing, that was still to come. The judge made it clear there were only two possibilities on the table: life in prison or the death penalty.
But to really understand why this sparked such a massive public outrage, we have to go back. We need to look at what actually happened on that terrible day in August 2024. Now, just picture this. The victim had just finished an absolutely exhausting 36-hour shift. 36 hours. She was a dedicated doctor, just trying to find a quiet place to get some rest inside the hospital itself. She went to a seminar hall to sleep, and that's where a colleague later made the horrific discovery. The post-mortem exam, well, it painted a brutal picture. She had been strangled, and her injuries showed clear, unmistakable signs that she had fought back against her attacker, fiercely. And that detail in particular is what really lit a fire under the public.
You see, this was never just a local crime story. The details of the attack triggered an immediate and absolutely massive response that just swept across the entire country. The response was immediate, and it was huge. We're talking tens of thousands of people, doctors, students, just regular citizens, flooding the streets. And they were demanding two things: justice for the victim, of course, but also much better security for all healthcare workers. And maybe one of the most powerful protests to come out of this was the Reclaim the Night March. Think about this. On the eve of India's Independence Day, thousands of women took to the streets late at night. It was this incredible act of defiance, demanding the right to be safe no matter what time of day it is. But here's the thing. The path to this guilty verdict was anything but simple. The investigation itself was just full of controversy, with accusations of incompetence and a deep, deep lack of trust from the victim's own family. So yeah, they arrested a suspect really quickly, but the investigation immediately started to fall apart. The local police were accused of totally bungling the initial probe. It got so bad that a court had to step in and transfer the case to the CBI, which is India's top federal investigative agency. But even that wasn't enough. The victim's parents were so convinced he hadn't acted alone that they actually petitioned for a brand new investigation, showing they had zero faith in the process. So why did this one case resonate so deeply with so many people across the country? Well, it's because it exposed this tragic intersection of two huge, ongoing national crises. On the one hand, you've got this routine violence against doctors, who often face abuse from angry patients and their families. And on the other hand, you have the deep-seated crisis of sexual violence against women, a problem that's often hidden by social stigma that keeps victims silent. This case, it was the horrific collision of both of those awful realities. And to put that first crisis into perspective, get this. A survey by the Indian Medical Association found that over 75% of doctors in India have faced violence at work. Let that sink in. A staggering 3 out of every 4 doctors have been assaulted while just trying to do their jobs. And as for that second crisis, well, official records showed over 31,000 reported rapes in 2022. But, and this is the really crucial part of the story, it's what that number doesn't show. Activists all agree that because of social stigma and a system that often fails victims, The real number is tragically, almost certainly much, much higher.
Which brings us to the final, really tough question that just hangs over all of this. A guilty verdict is in, a sentence is on its way. But for a country where both doctors and women are fighting for their basic safety every single day, can one conviction, no matter how loud the public outcry, actually be enough to change the system?